In this video, we're going to talk about the stimulus package update for August the 27th. Now, I'm going to talk about what's holding up the stimulus checks and the unemployment. And it is one thing. But before we do, if this is your first time at our channel or you haven't subscribed, click on the subscribe button at the bottom. My name is Travis Sickle, Certified Financial Planner, helping you reach your financial goals. So earlier today, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Chief of Staff Mark Meadows spoke on a conference call for 25 minutes. And they went through all of the stuff for the stimulus package, and they still haven't come to an agreement. They don't feel like they can move forward on negotiations, and it's at a standstill. But I think that there's one reason only why they're not moving forward. And it makes no sense because they agree on the unemployment. They're agreeing on the PPP program. They're agreeing on funding for schools and funding for vaccines. And they're even agreeing on the stimulus check. So it's the stimulus check and the unemployment. It doesn't make any sense why they can't move forward with those areas if that's what they agree on. But we need to hear from them so you can understand where they're coming from and what they're really focused on. Now, I have clips from both sides, so I'm gonna play both of the clips to show you their points of view on House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Chief of Staff Mark Meadows. But before we play this, let me know in the comments down below what you think of whether or not they should move forward with the checks and the unemployment checks. So the stimulus checks and the additional unemployment before they worry about everything else that they have in the bill? Or do you think it's right that they should wait until they have everything worked out before they move forward with anything? So get us the checks or move forward. All right, let's play the first clip.
We think what we have in our bill, and our chairman and I speak to them regularly, are committed to what we have in the bill to meet the public's needs.
Wait a second. What is she really talking about? What does she mean by what the public needs?
Understand that. So this is a conversation only to respect the fact that the president's representative, not even the lead negotiator, that would be Mnuchin. We consider whatever his name is, what's his name? Meadows there is staffing Mr. Mnuchin. And if they are willing to meet us in the middle, then we can sit down and talk. So this is, you called me, I'm returning your call. Are you ready to bring much more money to the table to honor our heroes, our state and local workers, our healthcare workers, our first responders, our teachers, our sanitation, transportation, healthcare workers?
Did she mention anything about the people that are unemployed or the struggling small business owners?
That could be a very short conversation if they're not ready to meet in the middle, if they're not. And so it isn't, that should be very short. Hopefully it isn't. Hopefully they understand that if we're going to destroy this virus, we have to have sufficient funds to do so in terms of testing, tracing, and treating. That unless we support state and local government, millions more people will be unemployed. Millions.
And there it is. Let's hear that one more time.
That unless we support state and local government, millions more people will be unemployed. Millions.
Now here's the challenge. It took a long time to get to the end of her point. And the point is that it all comes down to the one thing. And that one thing is for the state and local government funding. Now this isn't for additional unemployment. This isn't for additional stimulus checks. This isn't for any other support. It comes down to state and local funding. Now, I haven't seen a whole lot of information on the lack of funds for state and local governments. The only thing that I hear is from the bills that are being proposed that state and local government needs funding. So when I'm hearing that, I'm assuming that state and local governments are basically broke across the country. But again, I don't know if that's true. But what I do know is there are a lot of people out there who are on unemployment who cannot make ends meet right now. And they need that additional support. Now, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me why you would forego people who are already on unemployment and getting them the help they desperately need to those who currently have a job who hypothetically might actually lose their job if the state and local funding doesn't get replenished. Now let's hear from Chief of Staff Mark Meadows. But before I play the clip, I do want to ask you this. What do you think of House Speaker Nancy Pelosi forgetting Chief of Staff Mark Meadows' name and then acting like he was just some guy that he was just speaking to for 25 minutes.
Well, I had a 25-minute phone call with Nancy Pelosi today about trying to provide enhanced unemployment to people that are hurting, about helping small businesses, about sending money to our schools K through 12, and making sure that we have additional resources for those that need daycare. And what did we get from her? Is 25 minutes of nothing.
Okay, so he pointed out everything from the skinny bill, but what he didn't point out was why they left out the stimulus checks. I'd really like to get their take on the stimulus checks because we've heard President Trump tweet to Secretary of Treasury Mnuchin to get ready for the stimulus checks. So we know that it's coming from the Republican side. We've seen it in previous proposals, but it was left out of the skinny proposal. And I'd like to hear more on the reasons why they don't want to do any state and local funding. I understand that they don't want to do the state and local funding because they think it's going to help the Democratic states that did nothing during all the protests or the riots, whatever you want to call them. But what about the other funding? For a 25-minute call with millions of Americans depending on the outcome of this call, not to mind you, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi couldn't even remember the guy's name that she spoke to for 25 minutes. This needs to happen in a public place so we can figure out what the facts are, what's actually truth, and what's actually false. Because what doesn't add up, if they both agree on stimulus checks, send them out. And if they both agree on an additional unemployment, get it done. And whatever's done at the end of the day, leave it for the elections. If House Speaker Nancy Pelosi thinks that Biden is going to win, then why is she holding on to the stimulus checks and the unemployment? Because from the Republican side, what I'm not hearing is something that the Republican side wants and they're not getting. Now, if there's one of those points, let me know in the comments down below because I'd love to know what it is. Now, what I don't see are comments on this channel or anywhere else that are saying that, yes, they should hold out for the state and local funding before the stimulus checks go out. Yes, we should hold on to state and local funding before additional unemployment gets put out. The only thing that I hear are press conferences with House Speaker Nancy Pelosi going on a rant about how we should help our kids and how we should help our heroes. And then somehow that results into doing state and local funding. Now, I know that me personally, I went out and bought 2 laptops so my kids can do online learning. I don't see how that's any more expensive for our schools to support that because they didn't send us anything. We had to pay for everything that we're getting, and we're also not going to the schools. So they're not turning on the lights, they're not turning on the AC, they're not doing any of that. The teacher is teaching from home, and my kids are sitting in our house doing the online learning. Now, I say all that, and the Republicans still could give in and give the $1 trillion to the state and local government just so we can also get the stimulus checks and also get the unemployment. But again, I don't know how much of a need that really is for the state and local government because I haven't seen the facts on it. And I'm also not hearing anybody that says, you know what, I don't want the stimulus check. I don't want the additional unemployment. I'm perfectly fine having my job, or if you are unemployed, I'm perfectly fine getting my state's unemployment. I'm not hearing that anywhere. So from what I'm seeing, the only thing that's between us and the next stimulus package and additional unemployment is the argument with state and local funding. But maybe it's just smoke and mirrors to sway our vote for the next election. I don't know. But that's your stimulus package update for August the 27th. And if you've enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe and leave your comments down at the bottom.